and it was hot. It was so hot. It was like 95, 100 degrees in the shade. The wind never blew.
And they say that New Orleans has humidity down there, which kind of cools us off. That's bullshit. It was death heat.
Inside the convention center was so stifling hot, people tried to stay outside.
Hot as hell, 100-something degrees.
It's hot.
It was very, very hot at that time. It was 97, 98 degrees.
It was hot.
And the heat radiating off of the highway at night was intensely hot.
It's hot as hell.
That was the worst summer. I mean, that heat was ridiculous.
Man, hot as heck in here.
It was beyond Africa heat. If Africa heat was anything like that, like I said before, and I'll say it again, they keep saying go back to Africa. Hell no.
New study finds there are a lot more workplace injuries when it's hot outside. The results come as the federal government is considering new regulations to protect workers from heat. Here's NPR's Alejandra Borunda.
There's currently no national rule requiring employers to offer heat protections to workers, like water, shade, and rest breaks. And hot weather puts workers at risk from heat illness or heat stroke. But that's not all.
There are also cognitive effects. Hand-eye coordination, your attention, your memory, and even judgment or risk-taking or irritation.
That's Barak Al-Ahmed. He's a researcher at Harvard and the lead author of a new study published in the journal Environmental Health. His team wondered how those cognitive effects from heat played out in the workplace.
So there should be a connection between being exposed to extreme hot temperatures or just hot temperatures and the risk of injury at the workplace.
His team used a new database from the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. It tracked all reported workplace injuries for 2023. That's the first full year of data. By connecting those reports to local weather at those locations, they found a clear pattern. The number of workplace injuries rose with the heat index.
At around 80 to 85, it starts to increase. And anything above 90, it really escalates.
Overall, the team estimated there were 28,000 workplace injuries in 2023 linked to hot conditions. They also looked at states with and without heat protections. States like California and Oregon, which do require water, shade, and rest above certain temperatures, have fewer heat-related injuries than states without such rules. But they couldn't yet pinpoint which heat protection rules were the most effective and why. June Spector is a researcher focused on workers' health and safety at the University of Washington.
What is it about the rules, the way they're implemented, that is going to be most beneficial?
She says that's a key question for regulators and for companies trying to protect their employees without sacrificing productivity.
I think employers really appreciate ideas for how to make that practical.
Federal regulators held hearings for a proposed national rule this summer, but it's unclear if OSHA will move forward with the rule or what it would look like. And some staff working on the rule were eliminated by the Trump administration's cut to the federal workforce. Alejandra Borunda, NPR News.
In San Francisco, more people are now ordering Waymo robo-taxis than Lyfts with human drivers. People are getting more comfortable using driverless cars, so that got us thinking, is the same thing about to happen in L.A.? And how do human rideshare drivers feel about that? KCRW's Megan Jamerson looked into it and has the story.
There's still one place in LA where you're guaranteed to find tons of rideshare drivers and no robo-taxis. LAX, where Waymo is not allowed yet. That's where I met Oscar Cordero sitting in his navy blue Prius. Cordero's a 9-year veteran of Uber and Lyft with 15,000 rides under his belt. He's keeping an eye on all of those white driverless Jaguars.
The Waymos, electric cars and all that, they take in some passengers from us, I mean, this is everywhere.
In 2 years, Waymo has expanded quickly in LA. It now operates over 600 vehicles across more than 120 square miles. They're even testing their robo-taxis on LA's freeways.
And now with the new autonomous vehicles that are coming in from Amazon and from everybody, so it's going to be worse.
That's right. Amazon's robotaxi company Zoox is testing in parts of LA. Volkswagen's robotaxis will be too later this year. Statewide, 30 companies have permits for driverless testing in California. I asked Cordero how he feels about his future.
I don't know how long we're going to last here, but we're here every day, so we'll see what's up,
So does he have a backup plan?
I don't think so, because my backup plan is going to be retirement in 3 years. That's my backup plan, to get out of here,
Soon, there might be a lot of drivers thinking about early retirements.
Just how close are we to autonomous vehicle or AV dominance?
Mark Giorelli is a stock researcher at Morningstar. His job is to keep an eye on how much of Uber and Lyft's lunch is getting eaten by robotaxi companies like Waymo.
Put simply, it's not imminent, but it's starting to feel tangible.
It's a lot more tangible in San Francisco because it was one of the first cities Waymo started operating in. But Giorelli says today, autonomous vehicles nationally are doing less than 1% of total trips. He predicts that autonomous vehicles will be approximately half of U.S. and Canadian ride-hail in 10 years.
There is a clear loser. It's the human driver. There's just going to be less need for them in the long term as these AVs scale.
Widespread job displacement for professional drivers is still probably a few decades away. But in LA, it could happen faster as robotaxi companies grow here. Yorgos Petropoulos is a professor at USC's Marshall School of Business. He says if there are a lot of displaced drivers, the state should create a safety net for them and offer some job training, because the expansion of autonomous vehicles is not just a problem for the individual workers.
It is also a challenge for society. It is a challenge for the state, because we want to have individuals that they do jobs on which they are productive, and that also affects our economy.
Now, of course, the whole robotaxi thing is only successful if customers want to pay to ride in them. When AAA surveyed drivers earlier this year about robotaxis, 61% said they were afraid of autonomous vehicles, which is interesting because Waymo has a pretty solid safety record. A Waymo spokesperson told me that according to their latest collision data, Waymos have been involved in 91% fewer serious injury crashes compared to an average human driver. That was enough to convince me to try my first Waymo ride for journalism.
Hey there, Megan.
During my ride, I was pleased to watch the car slow down for big potholes on Fairfax Avenue and stop at a pedestrian crosswalk. I will say the being alone part was strange, but I know for some people, solitude is the point. It's safer. Remember Oscar Cordero, the rideshare driver I met at LAX? Well, he says for his own daughter, he'd pick a robot over a human.
I'm not going to use Waymo for her, because some of the drivers are not polite, they're not too professional.
Even though that might put him out of a job one day. For KCRW, I'm Megan Jamerson.
It has been quite a week for federal workers caught in the middle of the government shutdown. Sunday, President Trump said mass layoffs were underway.
That's taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats.
Monday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt walked back those claims.
The president was referring to the hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have been furloughed as a result of this federal government shutdown, both here.
And yesterday, a new threat. Trump and other top Republicans raised doubts over whether those furloughed workers would get paid once the government reopens.
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
NPR labor and workplace correspondent Andrea Hsu and political reporter Stephen Fowler join us now to help make sense of all of this. Hi to both of you.
Hi, Scott.
Stephen, I want to start with you, and let's start with this idea that some federal workers would not get back pay once the shutdown ends. Where does this come from?
So, Scott, there's a law in the books that says after a shutdown, federal employees who were forced to work without pay and forced to not work because Congress couldn't fund the government, these employees get back pay. That law was signed in 2019 after the record 35-day funding lapse by then President Trump. And here's what he said at the time.
I will make sure that all employees receive their back pay very quickly or as soon as possible. It'll happen fast.
Okay, that was then. He signed the bill into law. What's changed?
Well, Trump's second term has been all about finding different ways to have less federal government and fewer people working for it. So after the shutdown started last week, the Office of Management and Budget removed a line from its frequently asked questions that noted this back pay provision, and an internal draft memo was circulated with a contradictory view of the law. Now, this draft memo argues that the hundreds of thousands of furloughed employees who aren't deemed essential to the government functioning aren't guaranteed their paychecks either unless Congress explicitly says so.
Andrea, what are you hearing from workers and unions about this back pay issue?
Well, they're not buying this interpretation of the law. Many of these workers were around in 2019 when Congress passed the law, and they fully expect to get paid. And they tell me this is just another scare tactic.
A scare tactic to get Democrats to concede in the shutdown? Is that the thinking?
Yeah, and I spoke with Sarah Coburn about this. She's a longtime employee of the National Cancer Institute. And to be clear, she spoke with me in her personal capacity, not on behalf of the government. She believes the Trump administration is just going to do what it wants, shutdown or not. In fact, her agency has already gone through mass layoffs. Grants that she was overseeing have been cut. And this has happened even as lower court judges have found those moves illegal. So here's what she had to say about the new threat over back pay.
I believe this administration is behaving in a lawless way. So when I spoke to my husband before it happened, I said, am I certain I'm going to be paid back? No, because they're not following the law. But I am certain that is the law.
And Scott, it's not just federal workers and Democrats who are saying this. I mean, several budget experts I've spoken with say that the questions around back pay and some of the other proposals the White House is tying to the shutdown are misleading at best. Like Jessica Riedel with the center-right Manhattan Institute, she says, as one example, the constant threat of mass layoffs because of the shutdown just doesn't reflect the reality of how these reductions in force actually have to work or who ultimately makes those decisions.
It may be the case that we have more government employees at certain agencies than is necessary, but reduction in force decisions should be made based on long-term agency needs, not in response to a temporary shutdown.
So, Andrea, just to be clear, since we have been talking about this in so many different ways, about a week in, have there been any layoffs tied to the shutdown at this point?
Actually, no, not connected to the lapse in funding anyway. There have been layoffs last week at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, but those had already been in the works. And federal employees have used this moment to point out that whatever layoffs happen now are really just an extension of what's been happening since Trump came back to office and launched his Department of Government Efficiency. I talked with Alexis Goldstein about this. She's with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and a member of the employees union there. She also spoke to me in her personal capacity. She is still working, still getting paid because her agency's funding does not come through annual appropriations from Congress. She says very little work is actually being done, and it's been like that since early this year when the Trump administration first tried to dismantle the CFPB. For example, the agency is not monitoring the banks, which is what Congress created the CFPB to do after the 2008 financial crisis. Here's how she put it.
We're just very hamstrung or like frozen in an ice cube.
And Scott, we have asked the Trump administration for a response to this kind of criticism coming from federal employees. The White House spokeswoman, Abigail Jackson, sent a statement saying President Trump was elected by a resounding majority of Americans to carry out the agenda he is implementing. And she said federal workers who are resisting the Trump agenda are working against the American people.
All right, so we're hearing all of these people who feel like their paychecks or their future employment has been tied up as negotiating tactics. Stephen, where do those negotiations actually stand? What, if anything, is happening right now?
Well, Republicans in Congress don't have enough votes in the Senate to reopen the government. They're not willing to negotiate with the Democrats so far, who want Republicans to extend health care subsidies for millions of Americans. Meanwhile, Trump and his Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, have been trying a lot of different things over the last few weeks and have sent mixed messaging about their purpose. Some interpret it as a pressure campaign, while the administration says they're simply taking steps to mitigate spending in a shutdown. Those are things like terminating energy grants in places that didn't vote for Trump, holding up transit funding in Chicago and New York, and the constant threats to fire workers and or not pay them, which so far none of these things have panned out or moved the needle in this shutdown fight.
NPR's Stephen Fowler and Andrea Hsu, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Travelers across the United States are bracing right now for possible delays as air traffic control towers have seen major staffing shortages this week. Listen.
We were the last flight to leave Atlanta to come back to O'Hare, so we knew we were going to be delayed, and we didn't know when we were going to get here, actually.
On the plane, unfortunately, I found that my flight to Cleveland been pushed back for 2.5 hours, so I'll be here with you a little longer today.
Air traffic controllers are considered essential workers, so they're required to work without pay during the government shutdown. But Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says more controllers are calling out sick. And with staffing already tight, even a small number of controllers taking unscheduled time off can cause major disruptions. Joining us now from Reagan National Airport, just outside of Washington, D.C., is CNN's Pete Muntean. Pete, you know this issue. Just how bad are these shortages, and how much is that impacting flight delays right now?
Well, we're not totally out of the woods just yet, Wolf, on day 8 of this shutdown, and the Federal Aviation Administration is holding a planning teleconference, a conference call in about an hour's time. We know that Newark Approach Control, a facility that has been plagued by problems and staffing shortages for months now, was a concern earlier today during the morning shift because of short staffing. That has now dropped off the list, although on Tuesday we saw so many air traffic control facilities on the list of concern by the FAA that we typically don't see on the list. We're talking Houston, Dallas, Boston, Indianapolis, Philadelphia. And then there were the really big staffing problems, the delays at some of the country's busiest airports. At Chicago O'Hare, there was a ground delay program put in place. About a quarter of all flights delayed at Chicago O'Hare yesterday, a huge hub for American Airlines and United Airlines. Also at Nashville International Airport, the approach control facility there had to close down for about 5 hours, and the slack picked up by the control tower and the center facility in Memphis because of that. Not as dramatic as what we saw on Monday, though. That's when the control tower at Hollywood Burbank International Airport closed down for several hours, a condition known as ATC 0, essentially turning that large airport into what would be an uncontrolled airport that's typically used at smaller airfields around the country. I want you to listen now to NATCA Union President Nick Daniels. He says this is not part of some coordinated sick out, but you have to remember that 11,000 air traffic controllers are working without pay essentially right now in this government shutdown. There's already a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers, and just a few of them, a handful of them calling out sick, can have an outsized impact. Listen.
Politicians are the only people that can end a shutdown. What you're going to see is the stress, pressure, and fatigue that air traffic controllers have to contend with, the very difficult world of managing this system already critically staffed and then wondering where our pay is going to come from and having that steady stream of income. That's the impact that I'm worried about.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy insists that flying is safe right now, and the Federal Aviation Administration will put into place these delays in case of a decrease in safety. They have to make it safe by putting into place these delays. By the way, air traffic controllers got their last full paycheck just this last Tuesday. Next Tuesday, they get one more paycheck, but it's a partial paycheck for work they have already done before the government shutdown begins. That'll be their last one, Wolf.
Yeah, it's day 7 of this government shutdown. It's only going to get worse if it goes on day after day after day. Pete Muntean, thank you very, very much. Pete's over at Reagan National Airport.
All right, so more airports are expected to see short staffing again today. Staffing shortages caused Nashville's air traffic control tower to go dark last night. And it's one of the many airports across the country where the shutdown's impact is being felt. At Chicago O'Hare, flights were delayed by up to 40 minutes yesterday.
We knew we were going to be delayed, and we didn't know when we were going to get here, actually.
On the plane, unfortunately, I found that my flight to Cleveland been pushed back for 2.5 hours, so I'll be here with you a little longer today.
I know there's been some instances of planes coming really close to each other, or having to circle, or things getting delayed, and I'm on a work trip right now, so it concerns me about being safe and also about getting home.
Joining us now to discuss, Democratic Congresswoman Hillary Scholten, a member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, one thing I'll say is that the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, he has been out there. He has been on top of this, even going back to some of the flight collisions and things like that. Here is how he is kind of framing what's going on. I want you to hear it.
And again, Burbank, 0 controllers came to work. I don't support that. They should come to work. They're supposed to come to work. But they didn't miss a paycheck yet. So why aren't they coming to work? I mean, it's only been 6 days. So, the paycheck, the pay cycle ended yesterday, right? Their paychecks come next week, and they see what's on the horizon, Brian. They're like, listen, do I see a resolution of the shutdown? I don't see it.
You can tell by the fact that he does not have an answer there. He's stuttering. He's falling all over himself. They know they're in the wrong here. This administration needs to reopen the government so that the American people can get back to business as usual. I flew in yesterday and we experienced delays. The holidays are coming up. This is going to continue to impact the American people.
But is the pain the point for Democrats? Meaning, the more it looks like disarray, the more you were able to say, look, this is their fault.
Absolutely not. This government shutdown is about fighting for a budget that the American people deserve and fighting for health care. The Republicans control all three branches of government. They could reopen the government today if they did one thing that 78% of the American people support, and that is continuing to extend the ACA tax credits. You hardly get to a place of unanimity like that among the American electorate, yet 78% of the American people support it. So why wouldn't we fight
but
for something
do you hear
that
any
the American
murmurings of a
people
conversation?
Want?
We heard the president sort of allude to the idea that Democrats are talking. Do you know anything?
Look at what the president said yesterday. He knows this is a big deal. Premiums across the country could go up by as much as 75%.
But is there a conversation happening to end this crisis for Americans?
We are at the table. I am literally here in Washington because we were supposed to be voting this week. And I told my constituents I'm going to continue to show up, but they're not even at the table. This is not going to resolve unless Republicans show up. Respectfully, they're acting like children. I'm the mother of two boys, and my kids have better respect for the rules of negotiation, right? They need to be at the table, and they need to be talking about the ways that we can get this done.
Does it help to have someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene speak up for health care subsidies?
It helps to have anyone speak up for advocating for affordable health care for the American people. And certainly, you're seeing them in disarray. They're scrambling. The president is talking about addressing health care. Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about addressing health care. 78% of the American people are talking about addressing health care. Why wouldn't we do this?
Well, you're making it sound easy, but we're still at a standstill. So
we certainly are, but Republicans, again, I wish we had as much power as they think we have and are trying to hand over to us, but they control all three branches of government. Under what iteration of the facts, are we responsible for opening the government? It's just simply a matter of fact.
The Trump administration is using the shutdown to fire a chunk of the federal workforce.
Look, it's likely going to be in the thousands. It's a very good question, and that's something that the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work on today.
We believe that it's completely illegal, and that's why we filed a lawsuit against these type of actions.
Well, this could be sort of like Doge 2.0, slashing and burning their way through the federal workforce. This time around, the administration could use this shutdown as an opportunity to pull back funding from certain programs that they don't like.
Is he trolling the Democrats? Yes. Yes, because that's what President Trump does.
But experts say this won't fix the country's financial issues.
The big problem we have hanging over the government is that we're going to go broke. You can't keep doing this.
CNBC spoke with an author of Project 2025 about why the government is targeting federal workers in this shutdown. The federal government employs about 2.9 million people. A large portion of them are off the job during the shutdown.
Under OMB's own plan, about 23% of federal employees will be furloughed if the shutdown continues to happen.
About 154,000 federal employees took the buyout offered by the Trump administration earlier this year.
Morale is probably the lowest it's ever been in the federal government.
Conservatives have felt for a long time that the federal government is too big and too bloated and too expensive. Our tax dollars are going to a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. And they've wanted to streamline the government, both from sort of a philosophical approach, which is that the government is too big and is a drain on the private sector, and also from a practical approach, which is that they feel that they can't execute in the private sector because of all these regulations and things that the government imposes that are slowing them down.
I don't think it's unreasonable for the president to use all the levers, because they're asking for $1.5 trillion increase in spending. They want to put this inflationary impulse into President Trump's already strong economy.
Most of the U.S. federal government is on so-called autopilot, mandatory spending that revolves around programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and many other benefit programs that make up the bulk, more than 3/4 of federal spending. These programs grow faster than the economy. If the Democrats get their way, it won't make healthcare less expensive, but it will make it more expensive. Those costs will be mostly hidden because they will be picked up by federal taxpayers, or rather future generations. The Republican reconciliation bill blew up the deficit by about $4 trillion over 10 years, almost 3 times what the Democrats are trying to ask for in this government shutdown right now. Part of those were tax cuts, which some analysts believe will actually produce more growth than if taxes had risen. But there were also a lot of tax expenditures that legislators should have gotten rid of, and there were new tax cuts that were unnecessary and basically just giveaways.
If there isn't anything clearer in the world, this system doesn't work. We're throwing all this money out that puts us in tremendous debt, and nobody's happy.
The shutdown fight isn't so much about cutting government spending in the sense of fixing the debt crisis as much as it is about political priorities. Conservatives have long lamented that the federal bureaucracy is primarily serving the ends of the Democratic Party. This administration is trying to change those dynamics and create more employment opportunities for conservatives.
This idea was foreshadowed in Project 2025.
You know, most of the federal employees are sound people. But no reasonable person, when you get to be a manager, is going to be firing a lot of people. The idea isn't per se to let them go. The idea is to try to make the system work. And it won't work if you can't rate people on how they do the work and be able to enforce it.
Many government workers are in unions that have stronger protections against firings.
That's exactly what Project 2025 was all about. It was about doing away with unions. It was about doing away with federal workers. But what the union do for them is just ensure, some checks and balances. Ensure that they are free from intimidation and retaliations.
The director of the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, Russell Vogt, asked federal agencies to consider firing federal workers on furlough.
He's been in think tanks and Republican politics for a very long time now. He is one of the architects of what they call Project 2025. It was so controversial, actually, that President Trump on the campaign trail denied that he had anything to do with it.
For an example, see the ABC News presidential debate in 2024.
I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it.
Now that he is in power, he is threatening to use Project 2025 ideas and Russell Vogt personally to carry out some of these eliminations of democratically favored projects. And why is that? That's to put leverage on the Democrats on Capitol Hill to force them to come to the table on the government shutdown.
And it's sad that, Project 2025 tries to recast public servants as faceless bureaucrats. These are patriotic employees that simply want to provide a service for the American people.
And what we're seeing now is that this shutdown in particular is empowering the Republican majority. And in fact, some Republican members of Congress are now getting nervous about the tremendous discretion and leverage that the Office of Management and Budget and the White House seem to be employing to impose maximum pain on Democrats in order to bring them to the negotiating table.
I mean, what an opportunity this is. The Democrats just walk in with their chin sticking out. They're making people who, by their own definition, are not essential, open to being fired. I can't understand. Those aren't the Democrats I used to know. I mean, that's walking into a sucker punch.
Black police showing out for the white cop.
Mohammed Magasuba says from the very beginning of his law enforcement career, his goal has always been to serve his community by bridging divides.
A lot of Africans and foreigners, they don't have a really good relationship with law enforcement because of the language barrier. So I was able to narrow that gap when I joined the force.
That call to serve led him to the Prince George's County Police Department in 2010. Magasuba told me that when he first joined, he really got a chance to understand how important it is for an officer to have a strong connection to his community.
The community is a platform or the foundations of any law enforcement. Because when we need help, we ask the community to help us. So if we don't have those relationships with the communities, the police department would not exist.
For the first 9 years, Magasuba says things went smoothly. However, all of that changed on the night of January 23, 2019. Magasuba says he was called to Capitol Heights to investigate a report of 2 suspicious men following someone. When he canvassed the area, he saw a man and a woman walking by, so he passed them. However, court documents say another officer, Justin Luke, decided to engage the pair. Magasuba says the officer harassed them, which led to a confrontation and arrest. This video was recorded by the woman's son and shows Officer Luke arresting the woman while pointing his taser at her son.
He was angry, he was furious, but I can relate to that. That's, you see somebody assaulting your mom in front of you. What's your first reactions?
The video went viral, prompting Magasuba's superiors to tell him to change his testimony to justify Officer Luke's use of force. Magasuba refused.
That's the integrity of the job. Regardless what it is, I have to be honest to myself and the community that I serve.
However, that decision would haunt him for the next 30 months. Magasuba moved to the U.S. from Guinea when he was 14. And although he's proud of his heritage, he says that was one of the many things used to insult him.
I have an accent, like, as you can tell, right? So when I get on the radio, you know, they will make comments about it. Oh yeah, that's that African guy.
Ultimately, he was fired in 2021, but he decided to apply for the Capitol Heights Police Department in 2022, and now leads the department as chief. On Tuesday, County Executive Aisha Braveboy says the leadership changes she made aims to address exactly what Chief Magasuba went through.
Chief Nader is here, Assistant Chief Nichols is here, because we needed a change in culture in the Prince George's County Police Department. We have that today. And I'm proud of the leadership that we have here in Prince George's County.
Despite his experience, Magasuba says he holds no animosity against the PGPD. Now he's focused on making sure he serves as an example for the rest of Prince George's.
I pray that people are able to come out and speak their truth.
Truth gets you killed, Officer Magasuba, at least fired. Certainly not going to be no benefit. BGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualified. The Black Orenthal James, Gus T, in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy, racism. On a little bit early, approximately 60 minutes early, on this here Thursday, October 9, 2025. So I have been told our weekly installment, Neutralizing Workplace Racism, not for spectators. I will say briefly, one, the shutdown, we'll get to that, and yum, Trump's gonna fire everybody. Yeah, okay. No flights for Christmas, I guess, or Thanksgiving, Halloween maybe even. But before we get to all that, my sick white brother, Bill Belichick, oh my goodness, the niggerization of Bill Belichick in North Carolina. They talk openly about firing Bill Belichick. They had an attorney on talking about how do they legally fire Bill Belichick without compensating him at all. For people who don't know, this is the white male racist suspect head football CTE coach of Michael Jordan's North Carolina Tar Heels. See, he coaches the football team. Used to coach the Patriots, Tom Brady and them in the NFL, more brain damage. But this is his first year. He got this big contract and all that, but he's done such a poor job, and white people are so furious. They want him fired, like I said, everyone. He fire. They literally had an attorney said he tarnished his legacy. That word is in Mr. Fuller's word guide, tarnished. But they had an attorney on say, how can we, because normally you get severance pay, everyone, even if you work in Winn-Dixie or such, you get fired, they give you some sort of severance. They say, oh no, how can we fire him and not even pay him? That's wow. One difference between Mr. Belichick, racist suspect, and your typical Negro male, Mr. Belichick's contract apparently says if he is terminated, they have to pay him $30 million. Now, I've seen some reports where they, in all this talk about fire Mr. Belichick, it's been 20, but they had an attorney, and he said the contract says if they fire him, and it can't be for Wednesday, it can't just be because he went winless and they didn't win no games and lost their game. Hey, you can't fire him for that. But if they do fire him, $30 million. Whew. Read everything before you take a job, contract, what's supposed to happen, conditions of termination, all that. Man, if I ever had a job, if I get fired, they pay me $30 million. Man, I'm not going to say I wouldn't try my best, but man, Gus T up here talk. What do he say? He say, if you can't be early, be on time. Whew. I'm going to tell you, if we supposed to be there, we got team meeting at 8 a.m. Do I come in at 8:05? It would be tempting, like, whoa, 30 million. Whew. I would be willing to come and sulk and, yeah, I messed it up and, lamest ever. Well, go to my jacuzzi, platinum jacuzzi, put my feet up for the day. Woo, 30, man. You are the man, Bill Belichick. Go on, let him fire you, brother. Go on, let him fire you. Now, speaking of fired, the New York Times, they didn't have audio report for this. I'd still do that lame thing as you read, especially reading a newspaper. That's like dinosaur. New York Times, Trump fires black officials from overwhelmingly white administration. Is that at the center of the shutdown and all the Doge and we're going to get rid of federal? Is this a major aspect of what all this is about? It reads, Robert E. Promise, and I mean, if ever there was a privileged black male, Mr. Promise is it. This Negro got the audacious three-piece pinstriped suit on. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you... Purple sunglasses. You know, Negro get on the plantation. We got to show out and got his little kerchief tucked in his pocket. Like, who do you think you are? I'm not degrading. He looked way better than I ever could. I'm just saying. That's race soldiers. Look, who do you think you are? Primus. What a name. We gonna fire him today. That's what race soldiers think. That's exact. Who do you think you are? That's Obama, Oprah, any of these. What? Mike Jordan, remember they fired him from the Wizards? Get on out of here. Said he was so humiliated. Article reads, Robert E. Promise, the first black board chairman of the federal regulator responsible for approving railroad mergers, at first thought there was something wrong with his work phone. Dig this. When he couldn't unlock it, he switched to his personal phone only to learn that President Trump had fired him by email effective immediately. Now, who do you think you are? I didn't see it coming at all. Pamela Evans Harris, that's 2 times in a week. The spirit of Pamela Evans Harris, that's exactly what she wrote. Black Love is a Revolutionary Act and Other Works. That is one of the worst books I've ever read. Ever. Used to be the worst book I ever read, but they're worse books. Either way, we talked about that explicitly. Being in a system of white supremacy, racism, and specifically the area of labor, having any job, I wouldn't care what job it is. He had the specific title. He said he was the first black board chairman of the federal regulator. Like, wow, that's an impressive position. I wouldn't care if you're attorney general. I wouldn't care if you are president, vice president, whatever title you have. You flip the chicken nuggets at McDonald's. Whatever position that you have, as long as the system of white supremacy exists, and it does, you could be fired in the next 5 minutes. With cause, without cause, you could be totally competent at your job. A lot of those air traffic controllers, they are competent. Hey, Mr. Promise, I'm not sure, but he at least dresses as though he might have been pretty good at his job. Like, it seemed like he'd had this job for a while. So he might have been pretty talented. Oh, he doesn't just wear pretty looking suits, cool sunglasses. I was pretty good at my job. That doesn't matter. They didn't even give him a heads up. See, that's why you don't ever want to think, hey, I'm not black. I'm OJ. It's not a system of white supremacy, or if it is, it's not that bad. I got my little protected little spot on the plantation. No. And individuals classified as white can show you better than I can tell you. None of us, it's not even healthy. You don't ever want to get in that position where you have been so, what shall I say, you have lost your suspicion, gotten so comfortable, you have forgotten, wait a minute, we are on the plantation. Like, all this could come to a catastrophic end quickly. Same way, I told the niggerization of Bill Belichick, I heard white people snickering. He got 6 Super Bowl rings. They out there snickering, say Bill Belichick, he ought to get fired on his day off. Call him into the office, tell him you've been stealing boxes. And I said, are they talking about Bill Belichick like Smokey in Friday? The niggerization of Bill Belichick. Can't say you don't know nothing about race. You got white people. That movie is 30 years old, and they quote it like you know every line of the white people, like we know every line. You get fired on your day off, Bill Belichick. Smokey. Niggerization of Bill Belichick, my sick white brother. I feel your pain. I know all about it. Every whole world talking about you ought to be fired and the way we ought to go about doing it. And getting quite a bit of kicks, what they call schadenfreude, if you will. Snickering about your termination. Shameful. Shameful. Back to Mr. Promise. They probably snickering about Mr. Promise's termination too, because see, they ain't give him no $30 million, we're going to let you go, nothing like that. They didn't even let him know in advance. They sent him an email. My phone just don't work. They had a whole lot of old undignified terminations like that. You show up at work and your key fob don't work. Like, what? Wait a minute. My phone ain't, I'm fired. What? They didn't put a sticky note on my, man. and got security mean mugging me with a cardboard box. Whew, man, you can't forget. System of white supremacy. Don't ever forget. That is the worst mistake you can make. You might have to lie to other people. You cannot lie to yourself, regardless of how large your crypto account gets, regardless of how many bedrooms your house has. Hey, white people can take all of that. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It's theirs anyway, really. That'll help you. Man, let's talk about them possessive adjectives in the workplace, because it's not your job. That's why they can take it back. Continuing. I didn't see it coming at all. Mr. Promise, a Democrat, that really don't have nothing to do with it, victim of white supremacy, said in a recent interview in January the Trump administration had put a Republican in his place as the chairman of the Surface Transportation Board, which Promise saw as the president's prerogative, but he had been appointed to the independent board by Mr. Trump in his first term and expected to remain on it, as had been the long-standing practice. Instead, he heard a White House spokesman say the day after his firing in August that he did not align with the president's agenda. See, they give you some old vague, tacky line like that. That's what they say to me. Say, he wasn't a team player. He wasn't a good fit. He was so quiet. See, that'll be the reason they get justification, really, that they give. Continuing, Mr. Promise, a longtime congressional staff member and former lobbyist on transportation and national security matters, was reminded, he said, of Mr. Trump's widely condemned comment during the 2024 campaign that immigrants were taking black jobs. I do remember that. I remember I said that, what does he mean by black jobs? If anything, this should be a phenomenal illustration. Anyone or the usual suspects are responsible for giving and taking jobs, and they would be people classified as white. And I can just keep reading. Maybe he felt this job was not intended for blacks. Ooh, said Mr. Promise, 55. He acknowledged he was speculating. He said, but it's legitimate speculation, because if you look across the board, there is a pattern. Dr. Welsing would say, hey, I would have read this report, handed it out in the Welsing Institute. In fact, I would have probably, Dr. Welsing was a real dinosaur, meaning I would have faxed this to her, because she didn't do emails, but I would have faxed her this report, because my brain computer lit up the same word, pattern recognition. And that's what Dr. Welsing would say. We failed to do that, and that's why frequently we didn't see it coming. See what? White supremacy, racism, because we do not recognize patterns. Like, or we recognize them too late. Mr. Promise is part of a series of firings of black officials from high-profile positions in an overwhelmingly white administration that has banished all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the federal government. And while there are no statistics on firings by race, an examination of the people Mr. Trump is supporting to fill those and other jobs shows a stark trend of the president's 98 Senate confirmed appointees to the administration's senior leadership roles in its first 200 days, ending on August 7. Only 2% are black. The statistics were compiled by the Brookings Institute by Catherine Dunn Tenpas, a senior fellow at the University of Virginia Wahoo Miller Center, who specializes in presidential personnel. The statistics track appointees to the 15 cabinet departments in the presidential line of succession. Trump seemed to be very proud to have blacks for Trump, at all his rallies and behind the podium, but not behind him in the cabinet meetings, said Diedrich Ashanti Muhammad, the president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, a think tank that tracks black representation in government leadership, among other markers. The dearth of black people at the top, he said, would result in radical, substantive policy changes for African Americans. When we're not in the room, he said, things don't tend to go better for us. I can't say things go well for us when we're in the room, but, whatever. At least you'd like to be there so you can learn how all of this works. And, oh yes, white people are to blame as opposed to guessing. But I'll stop there. This was in the New York Times yesterday, October 8. Elizabeth Bum Miller and Erica L. Green, black female, the latter. But very important, and really, if anything, in my view, just to further confirm, you really can do all of the correct things. You can go to school on time, go to work on time, have a long, punctual career where you are competent, right, well trained, do outstanding work, and fired disgracefully so. Like I said, put a post-it note on the front door when you try to get in. Have security posted out front with a cardboard box with your belongings. You don't work here no more. Beat it, Leroy. Could happen to any of us, maybe tomorrow. Just have to be honest about that. And again, that's something to tell your children truthfully. Shutdown would be a great time to explain. Number to dial 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Now, the audio reports that we heard at the beginning, let's see. They talked about the impact of rising heat on workers. That's something we've talked about here at the C.O.W.S for years on neutralizing workplace racism. If you are non-white, that might be what you need black self-respect to address in your work environment. And I know it should be cooling, right? If you're in the northern hemisphere, maybe not. I know this time last year I was headed to Los Angeles. It was still plus 80 and humid, so it was not exactly cool temperature wise or other, metaphorically either. But that would be something to address, and especially on a warming planet. Water breaks, and they said, hey, we don't even have a uniform federal policy about heat in the workplace, and required breaks, water, smoothies, nothing, so you could have workplaces where, and I think it's especially dangerous because, one, what I just said, you have racists primarily leading the charge, will come and say, well, hey, no, it's not warming, that's debatable. You have, hey, it's only 62 in Seattle today. So what do you mean warming? That's regular weather. That's not, you're not sweating. You got the heat on. True. But we are having record-breaking heat here and many other places, climate change, and two, the additional confusion, or not confusion, but difficulty is that with the changing weather, you are having heat and extreme heat events in places that normally didn't have them, like Seattle. Like I said, we had 2021, we had 3 consecutive days of triple-digit heat. The city of Seattle, in white recorded history, prior to that event, had a total of 3 days in white recorded history that were triple-digit heat. In 2021, we had 3 in a row. That's what I mean. So if you're in environments where that's unheard of, we didn't have weather like that before, so we never really thought for people who are the mail carriers or people who collect the rubbish and such, other people, the parcel delivery. We have the folks right here drive the Amazon trucks to get us all our crap that we ordered and don't need and are going to throw away and break in 3 months or send back. They have to come back and wag it back to the warehouse. All those folks and the people in the warehouses, because many of them are old, not air conditioned. You got to be working, doing grueling labor for hours and hours, can't even go to the bathroom. A lot of that stuff in areas where before it would have been hard before, but it was what I just said, 60 degrees, 50 degrees. Now you're talking, it's 85 degrees, 90 degrees. Like, whoa, you could die, literally. You could die, you know. It's humid, you're working and getting hot and all that out in the sun. Like, whoa. Speak up. And even addressing that from an institutional level as a safety issue. I just said they had that talk at the University of Washington in the springtime, and they were talking about how insurance companies, they already know that this problem is either here for some parts of the world or will be here shortly, so they're probably going to have it, or he already outlined it. They outlined it at the conference. I talked about it. They said there'll be days where it'll be so hot, it'll be too hot for agricultural workers. It'll be too hot for them to be outside, so they'll pay them to not work that day, and then they'll pay their employers for the lost crops that don't get picked and rot, you know, in the fields or whatever. They'll pay them for the lost work because that would be better than having people work and die because of the heat. They said those days are coming. And they were just talking about agriculture, but it was implied anybody who works outside. So that would be everything I said before. Amazon, ride share, all the construction workers, anybody who works outside. If it's too hot to pick cherries, it's going to be too hot to deliver mail, I would think, too. Mark that on your calendar if it's not already here. The report about rideshare and the Waymos. Oh my God, can I get 2 times from my trip to California last year? I had not seen those Waymos until I went to California. Seattle has all kinds of tech, Amazon galore, for sure. Bill Gates, for sure. But man, I didn't even see them in LA. Now, I guess you could say I was only in LA for a week. I was in San Francisco for a month, so I had a lot more time to see the Waymo cars in San Francisco. I guess you could say that, but I saw those Waymos in San Francisco immediately. Like if I had only been there 24 hours, I would have said, oh man, I saw the Waymos. They were driving up like it was, they were everywhere in San Francisco. I took pictures. You can look and see them. I shared them on social media. Like I stepped out in the street to take pictures because I was so weirded out by it. Like, what? It's no, oh my Lord, Jesus. We had talked about it before. I knew they existed. We talked about it on the program and all that, but it was very different, like seeing it and then seeing them everywhere. Like, what? We even, a Cows listener that I talked to while in San Francisco, his theory, this is a part of white genetic annihilation. You don't have enough white people for lots of jobs that might include driving the taxi. You don't want a whole lot of Leroys driving your taxi. We get the Waymo. And they said they are taking off in San Francisco, and they are, because I've seen reports even subsequent to my being there, where they talked about how popular they are and people posting, IG stuff, content about their Waymo trip, and it was so fun and blah 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 and all that. So, man, they said at least at the moment, driverless vehicles are less than 1% of the U.S. population of vehicles. They anticipate that in 10 years, it will be 0.5%. Now, they said it'll take a few decades before it really becomes something, substantial. It could be faster, who knows? But I mean, hey, that day is a-coming, and it's not just going to be taxis. It's probably going to be any form of driving, really. They talk about cashless society. It might be what they said within a few decades. That could be before 2050. Like if it's 2 decades, let's say, that could easily be before 2050, which is right hunkering in on that 2060, 60% infertility rates for males in North America and Europe. But I could easily see that happening, and it might be needed if we have a lack of people by that time, so that the people that are here can get around and such. But I could see it being a driverless society. I was even thinking that, like, they call it enhanced ID. It might not be a driver's license, because a driver's license might be obsolete. They said the one thing that I did pay attention, or it was many things about that report, they said that the Waymos are safer. They even talked to Oscar Cordero, who could be a non-white person, one of those so-called border-hopping rapist beaners they talk about, so-called non-white. But I could be in error, couldn't see him. But that's a lot of the people who do the ride share. So, I mean, I have a reason to think that beyond just the sound of the voice. Anyway, he said, yeah, I would, if it was my daughter, I would get her a Waymo. Way safer. Not all the drivers are professional. Some of the drivers are rude. That is putting it mildly. Some of the drivers are racist killers. And, all the rest of it. Drug users, alcoholics, you name it. So, and even the safety, that's the thing. I was saying this a decade ago. I was saying that people, our conduct, Mr. Fuller said correct intentions. You have so many people, it's not even in their brain computer to start out with a high priority on operating this vehicle safely so that my passengers get to their destination safely. My passenger and myself safely from A to B every time. That's not in their brain computer. For many, many people out on the road, driving safely does not factor in at all. We are drag racing and shaving and watching videos and texting and playing chess, sometimes all at the same time. And let me, switch lanes. Like, man. So I'm not surprised at all that the Waymo might have a better safety record than actual people, and that will probably get better as we proceed. At least I can see the potential for that. So it wouldn't surprise me if driverless society, driver's license becomes obsolete, or that's just like a fun thing. Maybe white people go out and drive ATVs on the weekend, just, remember the good old days, but nobody really drive that. That was in iRobot, I think. They were talking about that in the future, but I could easily see that happening because nobody really wants to drive anyway. We'd rather be watching Netflix, YouTube, texting, all of the above, as opposed to, put my turn signal on. Yes, drive set. They don't do that. So that would be my prediction. That would be something I would have in my brain computer. I think for most people, rideshare is like a temporary thing, or, that can be a side hustle type thing. That is probably on the clock, meaning you might have another 20 years where that's an option. But they said the folks in San Fran, California, are already feeling the Waymo eat into their profits. Give that 15 years and it's not going to be eating into your profits. That job is not going to be there. And again, I would say that for any driving job. Amazon, 18-wheelers, any driving job, that's probably what it's going to look like. I know the AI and computers are overhyped in one realm. That's one that I've seen like in person. Like those cars are everywhere. Like, woo, that is not fakery unless they have guys. I mean, it is California, but I don't think that was fakery. I think that is legit. And yes, I think driving could be one. The bots are coming for that and fast. Let's see. And they said they had the audacity. They brought on an economist from the USC Marshall School of Business. I even tearfully like, oh man, I was at USC this time last year. Wacky. But they said they should have some sort of safety net for rideshare operators, so when the bots do take over, they'll have something to fall back on. Are you out of your flipping mind? Something to fall back. What? Fall back on like what? And in California, fall back on like what? Selling oranges in front of the Intuit Dome? What? Get out. Stop talking goofy. Let's see. The shutdown, because so much of it, that's what dominated the week. Man, if anything, that would be another. No such thing as a stable job if you are not white in the system of white supremacy. Private, public, whatever. You can be furloughed, fired, terminated. They might not even tell you in a dignified way. Send you a tweet. Public, too. They won't even have the courtesy to DM you. Man. System of white supremacy racism. Now, the furlough, I mean, whew, wow. It's, man. They said, one, with the shutdown at about, week and a half, going 2 weeks at this point, they said the folks who are furloughed, normally, they would get back pay, as they call it, for this period of time, meaning any of the days that they miss and don't get your paycheck, once the government is rolling again, you'll get your paycheck. Now, we had Carla last week talk about the shutdown happened, I think, 7 years ago, and non-white person said, I just got a $40 check, where they said, I didn't get all my nickels from the shutdown 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Man, what... Are they going to do the same thing this time around? People who missed out now, who knows how long this, is going to end up lasting. But I mean, any amount of money. Matter of fact, and with all of this, the important context, or one critical component of context, we heard that report a few weeks back. They said about 65% of federal employees are living what they call paycheck to paycheck. That means they don't have massive reserve, trust fund, Elon Musk bank. Things go bad. They don't get a paycheck for, a month or two. No problem. We can hold the fort down. We don't have to miss out on the Costco festivities. We still gonna have a good holiday season. All that refrigerator is still overflowing with victuals. 65%. Paycheck to paycheck. That would mean we miss a check. There are immediate problems. That is the system of white supremacy racism, and really it's been like this entire year. If you're a federal employee, has been a gigantic problem. And Elon gonna get us, Trump gonna get us. How long is the shutdown? It's been the whole year. No end in sight. That folks were saying that before the shutdown and now during. No end in sight. That's why it can't be in that spot of, I didn't even see this coming. No, this is about what I would expect in the system of white supremacy racism, particularly for non-white people. chaos, confusion, can't plan nothing. They said some of the federal employees with the shutdown said they felt like they were frozen in ice cubes. What a metaphor. Man, are you stuck in the ice ages? What? Anyway, you do not want to get to that point of feeling like you are just petrified and don't know what to do, can't figure out what to do. That's even why I say, like, talk to other employees so you can kind of get a heads up. Like, what's going on? What? Shutdown? What? You think this is going to last till December? What? You can start planning in advance, and even that's why Fuller and Gus T encourage all that frugalness. No, we're not going out to party. No, I'm not going out to spend and buy. Nope. I might be fired tomorrow. I suspect they probably figuring out a way to fire me right now. Me and brother Bill Belichick. Both of us. They're going to figure out, Gus T, Bill, we're going to get both of them out here and ain't giving neither one of them no severance. You can get them at the same time. Matter of fact, that's one cardboard box apiece. They can split it. That's the way you got to be thinking all the time. They're going to do me like Bill Belichick. Be sitting there talking about we're going to get rid of him without even giving him his severance pay. See? That's the way you got to be thinking, because that's about the size of it, you know? You're not going to get no $30 million if they let you go. Let's see. The air travel, man, there are lots of federal employees, lots, and dispersed, not just in D.C., all across the land. Oh, man, they talked about the air traffic controllers. They said the folks in Burbank came out and shook their finger at them. Said, isn't that disgraceful? You see, California, you see that? Isn't that disgraceful? Essential employees putting air travelers' lives in jeopardy. See? Calling out sick, ought to be shamed, and might even be criminal, coordinating some what they call sick out. He said these folks haven't even missed a paycheck, out there being obstinate, and they still getting paid, living good. That's the sort of thing I would point to. One, chaos, where you have this, I had been saying all the time, consistently, all of these firings of federal employees has a direct and indirect impact on a whole lot of people. Now, you go to catch a flight, and I heard that for lots of places across the country, federal employee. Now, they said in the report, and we've been talking about that, they already have a shortage of air traffic controllers, and they talked about that S word again. That's already a safety problem. All these mid-air near misses and all the rest of it. This was already a problem, a big one if you fly, even if you don't have a plane land on your house. Now you go to the meat of the holiday schedule, and what? They had whole airports in California where they said it was abandoned. No air traffic controllers. They got to divert and get people to do the call and communicate with the planes from other parts of the state and such. Like, what? What kind of maintenance? How long is that going to go on? Let them start having some more, old Boeing type accidents, and this is they just had the one crash, and President Trump blamed that on Biden. Same thing, Democrats, they messed all that up and got these old lame, incompetent DEI controllers up here flying the planes. What's it going to be this time if it's, well, there were no air traffic controllers up there because of the shutdown? How you spend that one and put that on Obama? And regardless, that is a great one to think about headed into the holiday season now. Who feels excited about buying a ticket to fly somewhere to see someone for Thanksgiving if that shutdown creeps into November? And then now, you've seen the way the air traffic controllers are behaving 9 days into the shutdown. Imagine how they're going to be acting 2 months into the shutdown. How many of them going to come to work then with no paycheck just because they loyal to the job and the country? Especially You flying into a big city like, oh man, where they got a whole lot of people flying into LA, whole lot of people flying into Chicago, whole lot of people flying into Atlanta. Yeep. Might be one better to drive this year, maybe. I don't know. If you can afford it, might be better you drive this year, you know. Or maybe we have to do the Zoom this year, because might be and even if you do get there in one piece, now they said that D word, delays, chaos. Yeah, you might get there in one piece, but we started out, this is supposed to be our Thanksgiving visit, turned into this our Christmas visit. Took that long. Guess we ought to be thankful we got here in one piece. Man, they said a part of all of the shutdown and talking about all this and how long this is going to go on, and white people, so-called Democrats and Republicans fighting between the two of them. Again, now, that article that I read about firing black people, is that the center of? They said that a part of what the so-called Democrats, what they want is to make sure that they fund social programs, the ACA tax credits, medical programs, you know, these are important. You know, Americans want these programs overwhelmingly, they say. I thought it was important because when they said the ACA, that's the Affordable Care Act, affectionately known as Obesicare. They didn't call it Obamacare there. White people's attitudes change quickly when you trying to keep the Obamacare credits. What? ACA credits. Yes. Yes. Man. They said if this continues, as I just said, like if this, you know, creeps into November, they said 20% of the non-essential federal employees, they will be furloughed. And then President Trump and such et al. Hinting, we will fire, you know, a whole lot of these folks because they got government bloat and waste and all the rest of it. Get them out of here. Another one to have a whole lot of federal employees, and I would guess, particularly if you are not white, like, they're gonna get rid of they're gonna get rid of us, ain't they? That's what I'd be. That's probably what I would have been thinking all year long. Woof. What? That's having a federal. You're supposed to be stable, feeling good. Nah. No such thing in the system of white supremacy. The last report, the black male officer in Maryland, Officer Magasuba, he is not a born in the U.S. black person. So I think they said Guinea specifically got these old pretend black people that come over and infiltrate and think they're going to hop in the Negro ranks and such. Now, that report specifically, we played a little bit previously when they gave us more details from his court case this week, and they repeated some of that we'd heard before where they talked about, man, he goes out, white officer tells him, hey, we going to beat down this black mother in front of her privileged black male son. We're going to arrest this black mom, point the taser at the son, move if you want to, Leroy, move if you want to. And he said, Officer Magasuba, you supposed to, you know, back up my lie. Why I had to smack around this nigger woman, threaten her Negro male offspring. If he move, we'll beat you down. We'll nigger knock you to death. He said, well, no, I'm not going to do that. He said, well, you a pretend black person. These not your black brothers and sisters. You not even, you know, you African. You don't care about no cotton pickers. He said, come on, you going to help me with the lie? He said, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm a pretend black person, but I mean, that's not what I signed up to do. You're supposed to have some integrity, you know. I signed up. I'm trying to help out my pretend black brothers who don't even speak the language. I'm going to help them out. They feel part of this. Yeah, I didn't sign up to smack around no cotton pickers. He said, what? You not going to? Ooh. And they go, I said, man, that sort of thing. Because, one, I've heard this before with black people who were born in this part of the world, and they had the same logic for why they wanted to get a badge. Hey, they smack around dark people all the time. Maybe I can get a badge. I can help stop some of that. We'll have an enforcement officer. They say that we won't snitch, won't talk to police. Maybe if I get a badge, they'll talk to me. We can help get rid of some of this crime impacting black people. And the same, just intentions. And then you get a badge and you have some old race soldier. Get your nigger knocker, Leroy. We gonna go knock him. I said, what? I didn't know. Wait a minute. No. Being confused about the system of white supremacy racism that dominates everything. 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 But I do applaud the integrity. He could have, hey, I'ma just go along to get along. Isn't that what they say? And I don't want no trouble, and I'm not going to, he got a gun, and he might tase me too. No, I'm not going to go along with that. That ain't cool. You smacked that black woman around for no reason, got her son right there. You going to tase him for that? No, I'm not going to lie. No. And that's something else. You should already be thinking. Now, you might not be an enforcement officer, but that day may come for you on any job. A white person, and it might be the CEO of the company, the person who signs your check, the person who hired you. They might come to you with the same sort of proposition. Like I said, obviously, you probably are not a lawwoman, but they might come to you now. We're going to harm Lakeisha. Maybe we're going to fire Lakeisha. We're going to blame, Leroy, your coworker. We're going to blame him for such and such. And we know it's a lie. You know and I know he didn't do it, but, hey, Theo did it, and that's my in-law, and I'm not going to fire my white in-law, so we're just going to blame this on Leroy or Lakeisha or both of them. And you sign off on this, and, you got up at the end of the year coming. Nice bonus. We get rid of both of them. We have a few nickels left over. You get a bonus. They might come to you with the same sort of proposition. Go along with my lie. I'm going to mistreat this person over here. I want you to co-sign on it. That'll be your moment. As for some, your black self-respect will be the heat. And we need water or shade or heat breaks or all. Your black self-respect moment in the workplace might be, no, I'm not going along with this lie. No, that's crazy. You beat that black female down for no reason. We're ready to tase her son for no reason, and I'm not going to go along with this lie. And they come back, change the report. You write something down with that, or we wrote it the way we want you to say it. Now sign it. No, I'm not going to sign it. Sign it. That might be your black self-respect moment, but you should think about that for any job. Am I willing to lie to harm another non-white person? Even remove the lie part, because it might be in a variety of forms. Am I willing to harm another non-white person doing this job? Think about that in advance. Hopefully the answer will be no. Does that mean I'm willing to be fired? Because they might have said that, hey, Magasuba, you're not a team player. You don't align with our agenda, which is smacking around black females in front of their offspring. You don't align with our agenda, and then they mock his African accent. You old pretend nigger, get on out of here anyway. You're going to be fired. You have to think about that in advance, too. I'm okay with losing this job because, hey, no, I'm not going to help you mistreat other non-white people. I'm not going to co-sign on your lies. I'm not doing any of that. And what he said, that's not even the job that I signed up for. Maybe, especially, you think about that career in ICE. I almost took some of the pictures from that. They had recruitment photos. It had an ICE badge on top of a stack, like a brick of cash. looked like it could have been thousands of dollars. Like, and then I remember, oh, that's right, they got that $50,000 signing bonus that you can get if you. That's white genetic annihilation too. They don't have enough white people for nigger knockers, but they got that big signing bonus so that you get your ICE badge, you get your brick of cash, and you go and you smack some dog people up, boy. I'm gonna nigger knocker you back to Tijuana, boy. You're gonna wish you had never. Ooh. Just think about all that before you take the job. Any hoodles, number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. The email untiljustice@gmail.com. Again, on a little bit early, give Gus T a little evening time for research. Hopefully I'll have all my act together for the Catherine Massey Book Club mañana. Any hoodles. Star 61 for folks who have commentary. I'll check the email as well. No, we're on a little bit early today. We'll start off email number 1. Let's see. Hi, Gus and Cal's audience. Oh God, there is a new non-white black female who's joined the team, and she is a gossip. That is in the 10 stops. No gossiping. I always add, I think that's especially for the workplace, because that's like an institutional part of the workplace under our current system. But there certainly is a lot of gossip on our free time, and just for giggles, school, home, all of that. But no gossiping is one of the 10 stops. Frequently leads to a lot of conflict, especially in the workplace and beyond. Socializing is high on her list of priorities, and she keeps asking to go to lunch and suggesting we coordinate when I'm next in the office so we can go for a coffee or lunch. I told her I'm never sure what day I'll be in the office, but she didn't get the message. Today she came over to chat when I was eating lunch at the desk and trying to work. She hung around talking about nothing for at least 10 minutes. Now, that is why I added to the 10 stops. Stop wasting non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. This is really how we have been niggerized to function in the system of white supremacy, where we're not really talking about anything constructive. Hey, like I say all the time, we could just focus on the job. If this is a new employee, there's got to be a lot about this environment that you don't know. Has to be. That's just logic. You could be asking questions about that. Who are the racists here I should watch out for? That might be an extreme illustration, but I mean, really, there's so much that you don't know. That's what you should be focused on, not, she didn't, get into explicit details, but I can imagine the type of frivolous, things that we focus on: entertainment, male, female, activity, sexual activity, or conflict. Sometimes that's all the same thing. Really, right there, that encompasses a big part of it. Fashion, clothing, that sort of thing. Those three right there, that is a big chunk of it. And that might deviate off from time to time. How are the children doing? I already said the male, female, so that would encompass the boyfriend, all that. Where did you go out to eat for this weekend? Oh, I'm trying to lose some weight, that sort of thing. Children, what are they up to? How is school going? It might deviate to that sort of thing, but I mean, most of the time, that's about what it's going to be. Some goofiness, gossiping about other people that we work with. Did you see who she's talking to? Did you see what she's wearing today? And did you hear what that sort of thing. None of that is constructive, but I mean, that's about 95%, maybe more, of what the focus is on. And I say consistently, you want a reputation. I am not interested in any of that. Like, not one teaspoon, not one syllable of any of that. You know what I mean? When it's time to talk about the bonuses, see, hey, do we get bonuses here at the end of the year? Oh, okay. Is anything, about other jobs? If you're looking for promotions, anything? Oh, okay. Those sorts of questions, I'm serious about this, not just on some nonsense. Even if we are going out to lunch, I'm plotting to go out to lunch so that I can ask, do they practice racism here? Are there any racists I should be aware of? What's been your biggest obstacle to a promotion since you've been here? These sorts of questions, and I don't want everybody listening in. Maybe I want to go out to lunch to ask you that. Great, okay. That not to talk about a whole bunch of fool talk. And really, I wouldn't even have enough trust to just go ask a random black person on the job that I'm just meeting, do they practice racism here? Are there any racists? I said, well, I would think they would go snitch on me immediately. So I wouldn't even ask them something like that, but I would have questions. Any difficulties you've had getting a raise, promotion? What's been your biggest difficulty here? Like those questions I might ask. That might be something to go out for lunch just to get more information. Oh, okay, great, all right. Any tidbits I need to know? Help, when it's time for me to get a raise, anything you want me to know? Okay, promotion, oh, okay, training, ask about the... Anyway, let's see. So she comes hanging out, talking about nothing for 10 minutes. And she was standing over me for the whole time. I was thinking about her germs. Ew. I had my food to the side of me, but still, I feel you on that. I do not like people coming to hover, especially strangers, to come here and loiter, really, in my space, intimately so. When I'm eating, they haven't been invited. We don't have rapport like that. Just, oh man, like... Give me 10 feet and give me 20 minutes. I mean, get one of them signs and put on the door or right outside the cubicle. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. I'm doing my thing. Like back up. I'll talk to you. Like, and then the greatest insult. You're not even coming to share anything constructive. You're just coming to babble about what you watched on Netflix. Like, Jesus Christ. I deliberately eat lunch at the work desk so that people do not interrupt, ask me to go to lunch with them, and so I can go for my walk after I've eaten, maximizing the time I'm on break. She's new and wants to make a good impression, I'm sure, but she's a gossiper. She said it twice, so it must be really bad. Comes across as oh, wait a minute. Is she coming to gossip about it? Oh, my Lord. See, now, the frivolousness, that'll be a big chunk, but she keeps saying the guy. Oh, man. Now, if you are coming to gossip, I would have to stop that. That's one of those, like, man, Walter Beach III. Long legacy of the Cleveland Browns from Walter Beach all the way to Prime Time's offspring. And many in between. But Walter Beach III told us some things on the job, you got to cut it at the knees. I am not going to tolerate, really, it is especially a white person. You are not going to come to me in a work setting and gossip about other people. I mean, if you're coming and you have praise and adulation for other coworkers, that's not gossip. No problem. Continue. But if it's just to come and talk about, what outfit they had on and how tacky their shoes were and how stupid they are on this project, stop right there. I do not want to hear any of that. I'm not interested in any gossip about any of our colleagues, coworkers. Thank you kindly. I would want that to be a reputation, and specifically for the gossip, because that's the sort of thing where I say all the time, they got Alexa, they got video everywhere. Everybody has an iPhone and all the rest of it. So you really have to behave as though everything is being recorded, audio, transcript, everything. And her come, especially if he's coming to malinger for like 10, 15 minutes, and she's talking and giggling and, oh, Samantha was wearing this and her shoes and her being there all that time, and we're both Negra, they will easily just lump us in like, oh yeah, y'all were talking bad about Samantha's shoes and they already did that. Like, you got nasty and persnickety with Dahmer's fangirl or whichever white person it was. They'll do the same thing, that you all were being unprofessional and gossiping about your colleagues, and she overheard it and she was just crushed. Now she doesn't even want to come into the office, all that, and they'll blame that on you. I would please, I'm not interested in hearing any of that. If you have something that's related to the job, the workplace, let me know if I can be of help, but I am not interested in hearing any gossip about our colleagues. Thank you. She's a gossiper, comes across as fake and sneaky, and doesn't take a hint or understand what personal space is. She stands too close and leans in when she's speaking. My problem is that I'm already persona non grata negra, so I'm being careful not to upset her. Fingers crossed she gets the hint soon or gets too busy to bother me. Please, God. Maybe that'll happen. They'll load more work onto her so she won't have time to come and pester you too much, and she won't have 10 minutes to malinger, at your desk. We have a team lunch coming up, which I can't get out of. There's no way I'm sitting next to her. I don't want to sit near any of them. There's only 5 of us in the team. Ooh, that's like a 20% chance that you'll... So I don't have many choices. I think I'll sit near lecherous Brian because, believe it or not, he pries into my business the least. I'm too exhausted to give the update on right-wing Ashley and the rest of the racists. I'll report next week. They can wear you out for sure. Those like mandatory luncheons, probably will be more of those coming as we get on the end of the calendar year, be it because of the holidays or whatever, just reviewing, planning out for 2026, reviewing of 2025. It could be a variety of things, but there'll probably be more of those coming over the last 65 days or so of the year. Now, the shutdown might impact that somewhat, especially if this lingers into next month and beyond. Maybe we won't have as many of these. Maybe it'll be a whole lot of folks who will be missing paychecks, and so hey, I'm hurting. I would play that up. As long as this goes on, I'm not doing no birthdays. I'm not doing no white elephant. I'm not going out to eat. I'm not doing happy hour. Like, I'm hurting. I'm on pins and needles about this here shutdown, and they're going to furlough all of, even if we didn't have a federal job, I'd tell them that. Like, if they think, you married to somebody or it's going to impact your family, or you just nervous about the broader impact, I can't, I'm saving every nickel I got. I don't do nothing. I don't eat out. I don't do nothing. I'm as nervous as a nit about all this. That's what I tell them. What they going to say? Well, yeah, you're right, brother. You got $5 I can hold because I'm, I'm biting my nails every evening. That's for everything. Even if it wraps up in November, I'd still tell them, I can't do no Christmas celebration. That shutdown set me back a good year or so. Like, I need to recover. Financially. Spiritually. Oof. Anyway. But if you do have to participate, like you can't get out of it, you can't use the shutdown or whatever, you gotta go, I would just codify. And she sound like you might even have to codify, where am I going to sit? Make sure I can get through this as painless as possible. How long am I going to stay? I know I'm going to be sober. You just go through your mental checklist of do's, don'ts, get through this so you can accomplish whatever we need to, and then get out of there. Some of it even being strategic, the location that we select, make sure that we don't pick no nudie bar or nothing like that, because they do that a lot of times, for these sort of engagements. Even if it's a workplace engagement, they'll do that. I might even try and swing and see if we can get this to not be at a bar, even if because sometimes they'll pick an establishment that is a restaurant person, meaning they do have food, right, menus and such, but it's more of a bar than a restaurant, or at least 50-50. I would try and pick more of a food joint, not a bar. Maybe it's a food place that serves wine or whatever the case may be, but this is not some place that has a reputation of, oh man, they got the happy hour specials and you get your Mad Dog 20, like, that's something else, just so we can try to minimize the crazy, especially during the holiday season, so-called. All right, that was email number 1. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Let us know if if we have folks who are federal employees impacted by the shutdown, other folks who difficulties in the workplace, racism related or no. I cannot stress enough, I would not talk about the shutdown in the workplace. Now, unless you are a federal employee, you at your job specifically might be impacted. Now, if they're talking about, what's the procedure? Can we work from home? Are we going to get paid back? All of that. Excellent. And asking questions, lots of questions, so we can be informed what to expect, all of that. But in terms of just, I want to discuss like the merits of this, who's to blame for this, what I think about it. None of that. Even with other non-white people in the workplace, they have whatever people are talking about it. Great. They can say whatever they want to say. I have no comment. That's about the max that I would give them. Yes, difficult times. Then we get right back to work. Not talking about anything but the workplace, period. White people, non-white people would not matter at all. That's it. While give folks a minute to either dial or email thoughts, observations, the shutdown, beyond in the workplace. We will be here on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, normal time. Catherine Massey Book Club. I'm pretty much decided on the book. Guess I was waiting because there's so much zaniness happening this week to kind of see if I was going to change my mind in which book we were going to read, but pretty sure I have it all sussed out. I will post later this Thursday evening, so we will be ready to rock and roll, not taking a hiatus for Friday this week in October, but new book, Catherine Massey Book Club, on Friday evening, and then compensatory call-in this Saturday. We'll catch up on what has transpired over the last 7 days, shutdown and beyond, global system of white supremacy. That's it for today. Let's see, we'll give folks maybe 10 minutes or so, see if they have other observations, if they are being impacted directly, indirectly by the shutdown, and or if they have any again, always, if we have some folks who have figured out ways to not be terrorized and abused in the workplace, please share immediately. Like, man, if you figured out how to get all of your nickels, get your promotions, make sure you get a obese end of year bonus, maybe you figured out how to avoid having to participate in those goofy luncheons or happy hour meetings and such, where they go to the bar or whatever. Man, let us know. Did you quote policy and procedure? Was it a specific sentence that you just had to read off and that, solved the problem for you? We need all kinds of constructive tips for the workplace to minimize problems with white people and non-white people. So do not be holding out on us if you have figured out some solutions for racism in the workplace, problems for non-white people. Let's see. I think folks might be procrastinating. I don't know if we have, or hopefully we don't have lots of folks who are being treated, I guess, somewhat correctly in the workplace who are holding out on us. Hopefully that is not the case. But hey, if you're not being terrorized, you get all your nickels. They don't plot about terminating you in your workplace environment. They don't steal your chair when you get up and go to lunch, come back, you have no place to sit. Outstanding. Make sure you invest. Hit the blog racism-notes.blogspot.com. racism-notes.blogspot.com. PayPal button in the top right corner. Invest. Let us know if you have been getting your, and expect another enormous bonus or maybe even a promotion before the end of the year. Spectacular. Make sure to share a few nickels with the cows so we can continue our counter-racist effort, and make sure codify. Take 30 minutes, write down a few suggestions. What did you do, not do? What did you say, not say, to get in this glorious position? Because, man, we would love to emulate your, I guess, workplace comforts. See if we can get white people and even maybe other victims to ease up off us with some of that abuse while we go to work. Much obliged, and let us know. Let's see. Folks who dialed in with a commentary to share. Let's see. Non-Clemson Dad, Mama C, Double O Dimples, all with us. Let's see.
Hello. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening to everyone. I hope everyone is doing their best to have a wonderful day. Definitely very interesting stories. I remember coming out of school, one of my mother's friends who now works for the federal government, and even my sister at the time, were constantly telling me that I could take my talents to the federal government. And I won't go as far as to say that I didn't consider it, but I never personally took it very seriously. I just never, and I chose not to. And of course, I imagine many people have friends and family or family that might be workers for the federal government, and some of them are essential and some of them are not. I definitely, for example, my best friend from high school, him and his wife, he works for the Department of Homeland Security, and his wife works for TSA. And they are both working right now without a paycheck. And, of course, the last government shutdown with Trump that occurred back during his first administration lasted a record 35 days. And like one of the earlier things you said, people are living paycheck to paycheck. Before people get fired, they might even not be able to pay their rent. It's a very scary time right now. So I have a couple of stories. My wife and I took our daughter to a newly opened park earlier this week. I was going up and down the equipment to play with my daughter. So, some suspected racist little girl who looked to be no more than about 3 or 4 years old said adults are not supposed to be up here. In that moment, she reminded me of the book Sundown Towns, where the little kids were sent to the black people's houses to tell them to leave town. After being taken aback by the little girl, I responded, "You should go tell your parents." And went about playing with my daughter. My computer at work was operating slowly again, so I had to call the IT department to get them to allow the updates to occur to speed up my computer. It's operating much better now. I will say that I do understand not letting every update from the operating system come through because some updates are problematic. They could slow down your computer, or they could cause programs on your computer not to work. A couple of Fridays ago, we took our daughter to her second movie. We were 3 or 4 people in the movie theater. The fourth was an elderly white man. It was a G-rated kids movie. This is not to say that the white man in the movie theater was a pedophile. I do not know him, and I'm not checking the pedophile registry. But I do wonder why a retired-looking white man was in a G-rated kids movie. Just my personal thoughts. For some reason, my newly appointed director salutes me to greet me hello, but he doesn't seem to salute anyone else in the office or department as far as I can tell. I have never served in the military or law enforcement. Now I'm going to pass it over to my wife.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. This is Mama C. I just have a quick story. So one of my students, he's been coming pretty regularly, and I think I've called into the C.O.W.S before, that this middle-aged white male, he doesn't have a wife, no children of his own, but somehow he got connected with 2 young black girls. They're like preteens or whatnot. But he had, like, he threw the younger one like a birthday party for himself and for the younger one this past weekend. And then as he was taking the girls back to their caregiver, which is like their aunt, who has, parental rights and duties over these girls, she said something to my student, this white male, and she said something to the extent of, nothing that you're doing makes any difference in their lives. You may have just created a little bit of joy in their life, but nothing that you do matters. And to me, that's not like a really big deal, but he's been in these girls' lives for a year, and he gloats that he spent money on them and takes them to all these new experiences and makes sure that they're clean and that they're fed and all this kind of stuff. And so we're talking before his lesson, and he was really upset about it, like really taken aback by her statements. And he said that he wanted to open up a case against the caregiver. And he wanted to report the woman for neglect. And then I was like, oh, why would you say that? And so I'm just asking questions. And then he was like, oh, well, the girls come to me and they don't have clean clothes. And, oh, they come to me and they may not, one of them kind of smells, so not up on proper hygiene and all of that, regular hygiene. And then, they come and they're starving often. They're often hungry, which is a common theme on the C.O.W.S when it comes to young people just having hunger pains, and motivated to do different things in life because they're hungry. But anyway, so he said they're hungry to the point of like starvation, like they haven't eaten. And then the younger one, she looks to be underweight and undersized. So maybe she has like some nutritional deficiencies that has affected her growth. And, instead of being like closer to size 8 to 10 for girls, she's maybe closer to like a 5, 6. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm just sitting there listening to him, and I hear what he's saying, but I try to tell him, like, the caregiver has not restricted anything. She should, but she has not restricted any access to the children. She's really not fighting. The most that she said was like something that hurt his feelings. And he understood what I was saying, but eventually I was like, yeah, you shouldn't call CPS on black people. Like, sometimes dysfunction, like as bad and as toxic and detrimental it is to children, you don't call the CPS on people, because even dysfunction is a form of stability. But I was just like really taken aback. And then he went a step further. I can't really explain what he does as his job, but the people that he works with, they have former CIA, former FBI agent, security clearance with the government. I don't think he has that level of power, but he's among people who do. Somehow he takes it a step further. Instead of just speaking to the caregiver and letting her know how he feels and his words push back against what she was saying, he said he's going to open up a full private investigation against the woman. Like maybe the woman's doing illicit activities when the children are there or when they're not there. And, somehow with AI technology and, everything that you're able to access on the internet, he was able to get her driver's license, social security number, email passwords, and then just some other stuff that's like really personal from data breaches. So, when you sign up for all these like apps and websites, or you subscribe to people's newsletters, they collect your email addresses. Let you know, but if you don't change your passwords, or if you don't stay on top of these data breaches and stuff, your information is just circulating out there, and people can misuse that information for nefarious reasons. And so, he's still proceeding with collecting as much information, and it's like trying to build a case on why this woman shouldn't have access to these children. She has the two nieces and then her grandson. And then he shared more about some of the other family members. But I was just like, hey, once you kind of put their lives into an upheaval, then you have to assume responsibility. And I don't think that, you could do it. He has whatever income or wealth or whatever, but it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem right. But I was just surprised. I was surprised with, somebody's willingness to get back or retaliate against somebody else for just something really, really silly and innocuous. Basically, he has access to these two minor children, and nobody bats an eye. Nobody looks at it twice. And now that this has come out, I'm still looking at him very sideways, like, is this later down the line? Is this going to come back? And I'm going to be interviewed because I had a relationship with this person as a client, as teacher-client relationship, and it's going to come back to me, and maybe he does something or something comes out down the line. So that's all I wanted to share. Just be mindful with what you share with other people. If you can, protect your Wi-Fi network or security on your computer and devices and all of that, because people can just, I guess, be stalkerish towards you, or gather all this information, and you're like, how do they know all this about me? So with that, I'll end my share.
Yikes. Wow. Much obliged, Mama C cameo from 00 Dimples, grown so much. Non-Clemson dad as well. Dang, that is frightening. Man, that is frightening. And I suspect, just as you said, like, for him to verbalize that, like, he has probably already been like plotting and scheming. But yeah, I'm going to report them to CPS. Yeah. Like I'm just getting my thing together. And like you said, for something so small, like, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, it doesn't. For that, I'm going to get. She shouldn't even have them. Wow. Just, man. That is scary. I guess the one, how he said he's going to do a private investigation. One, he used all his professional hookups. If he's CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, all of the above, local enforcement officer, who knows? He's going to use his white credentials, white network. I didn't go get all this information. That's once again, now who's ignorant about racism, white supremacy? Does it sound like the black mother or black caregiver in this case? Does it sound like she properly suspects that this white man could be a racist? Either way. Oh, did we have more?
I think non-Clemson grad said that you were asking a question like, does the caregiver even suspect that this white man is a racist? Doubtful. When he pushed back or kind of responded to her message, she's tried to say, oh, that was yesterday's news. And how I interpreted that was maybe in the moment she felt that way, like, hey, something isn't right, but because of how much involvement and how integrated he is into the girls' lives and even her life, she wanted to kind of take back what she said because, he's a source of resources. But no, she may feel that way, like, oh, this is an act of racism for him to, just come in here and, basically look like a hero to these girls. But, if I say anything against him, then he's going to remove all of that from them. And so she's like, oh, he's helpful to me, because he said, she gets free childcare. But in economics, they always say there's no such thing as a free lunch. So whether it be like freemium games or free apps or, in this case, free childcare, what are you having to pay? What is he gaining for access to these girls in exchange for free childcare? I don't know. Maybe he's altruistic. I have no idea. But I don't think that she would suspect that all white people are to be suspicious of at all.
Much obliged. Most of us do not, unfortunately. And that's a great point too. Like, what is the benefit for him getting these, according to he, starving children who have a poor hygiene regimen, and I just get to come in and rescue and white savior and let's go scrub you up, get you some new clothes and get everybody all fed and do some dance lessons and best thing you ever, like, come on. And even really what she said about the suspicion about how altruistic are this suspected racist's motivations. Like, how in the world, on the one hand, I'm going to go get them food, I'm going to go whatever, if I can do a little bit patch in there and help out there, great. Why would you, on the other hand, be talking about, I might call Child Protective Services? Like, what? Do what? How is that improving? For Devontae, Abigail, Sierra, How is that improving things for even if they come stay with you till this caregiver gets her act together? How is that improving their lives at all? You're not an ignorant white man because you got, whatever he is, Homeland Security, CIA, FBI, all the above, whatever. You're not an ignorant white man, so foster care. I mean, unless she's like molesting these children or abuse, it would have to be way more than she said something flippant to me. It would have to be way more than that for me. But, I think I need to call social service. Like, this is abuse, and she ought not have these little girls. Come on. If anything, on Richard Williams, we read Black and White, the way I see it, in the book club. On Minister Malcolm X, we read his autobiography in the book club. And many, Devontae, and et al., Sierra, Abigail, Patrick, +2, and many more. Man, how easy is it for white people to steal black children in any time period? In any time period. Oh, like a speed dial. Pull out I ain't even got to do that. Alexa, social services. Like to report the nigger woman down the street. Kids smell terrible. Haven't eaten in a week. The only time they get food is when I sneak them bacon. What? What? And then he got, Jesus Christ, got all her emails. Whew. Did not need to hear that. Much obliged for sharing. That is, wow, we are in such a pitiful condition. I guess check your passwords and such, change them up, and Jesus, whew, man, we are worthy of great pity. Wow. Play around with sex. The joke is on the offspring. I am not sure about the salute. Non-Clemson grad said he noticed the fella in the greetings. Morning, Susan, Helen, Theo, Thomas. Morning. Mac, good to see you. Right on. He gets around him and salute. Like, wait a minute. I'm not no veteran. I didn't graduate from Clemson. I'm not in the military. Why is he? I just can't get a regular greet. Even that, I just want the same greeting everyone. Morning, Chip. Morning, Helen. Morning, Susan. Non-Clemson grad, right? Morning. There perfect. No nicknames, no add-on. I don't need no fist bump, just the same. Everyone, thank you. Beautiful. Let's get to work. Maybe I'll get that promotion. Maybe not, but hard work of day, Salute. What? Just right. And observe. Are there veterans who work here? Do they get a salute too? Or, that's noteworthy at least. And then he said the computer.
Gus, you don't know. You hear me? You actually have a reasonable question there. The other black male who does work in the planning department, he is an Air Force veteran. I've never seen him salute him.
That is, see, that's what I like. I know it's got to be at least one, they got somebody who served that snuck up in here. Did they get a, salute? Hey, come on, right? Okay, right. This, maybe this is just, maybe he served, and he, I'm wacky. I would just note that one down. Okay. What army am I in? Nat Turner's rebellion rises again. And then he said the IT, which he told us about before, where he was having a lagful computer, where I think he said the IT people had let his computer roll for 10 years and not updated it, snickered about it probably behind his back. And then they got black IT people and they said, oh my Lord, they ain't updated your computer in about 25 years. Good Lord. And he said, man, I had all them crashes and everything else and wasted all that time. Man, this is why. He said this time he got the IT people that came and fixed it. Who knows? Maybe they did the same thing, or put a virus, or man, really put that with what Mama C told us at the, I guess, end, what have you, of all the sneaking into your information and maybe they do that in the workplace too. Go in and sabotage the computer so runs real slow. We'll make that nigger waste a whole lot of time. He'll come in here asking about a promotion or a raise, or he wants to get this new title or whatever. Hey, you're not even productive now. Takes you 15 hours to get work done sometimes. You doing all that messing around back there on the computer. We think you're playing on the YouTube back there sometimes. We ain't updated his computer in 10 years. Put a virus on it last week too. We don't even know. Much obliged. Man, and we got cameo from 00 Dimples. Whoopee. Let's see. I guess we'll call it a broadcast just so that Gus T can run out and do double duty today. I'll put the extra segment in the archive, so we'll have 2 for the day, and then I'll run back for mañana. Certainly we'll have more to share on the federal government shutdown, because unfortunately that doesn't seem like it'll be ending anytime soon. Either way, we'll be here Friday. New book I will decide this evening and post this evening, and ready to roll. A little late, but Whitey has been on it this week. New book for Friday, not taking the week off. Catherine Massey Book Club soon. Sobriety would be best, especially with holiday season coming. Like, woof, you got to go to happy hour or something at the bar for any of this nonsense. Like, teetotaler, and we getting a head start on dry January. How about that? Creator, we ask that you remind us to stop wasting non-white people's time and energy, especially our own. Remind us to stop name-calling people classified as black. Remind us to stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay Letourneau, drowned by Susan Smith, or other racists. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. No problem. You're a victim. Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.